Hello, all, and welcome back to another episode of Movies and Us, a weekly gathering place filled with conversations about movies, stories, and connection. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan.
And today we're going to be reviewing the film The Fall Guy, and we are joined by a very special guest, Britt. Britt, do you want to introduce yourself and who you are?
Hello, and thank you both so much for having me on the pod. I'm very excited. My name is Britt. I am one of the three co-hosts of 1001 by One, where we take movies from the book of 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. We analyze them, discuss them, tear them to shreds if necessary, especially those movies from 1930, and decide whether or not they should be in the book. We also release director ranking episodes, and we've been doing a recent we're doing recent shorts where we just talk about films that organically came up in conversation. It's been really fun. So that's what I do.
Awesome. And we're so excited to have Britt here on the pod. And this is a fun movie that I think we're going to get to talk about and dive into. So I'm sure this will be a real great conversation. I'm not sure The Fall Guy will make it into the 1001 movies to watch before you die, but first it may be.
I'm going to say there's a lot of weird ones in there, but this one might just, I don't think it's going to make the cut personally.
But definitely not 1001. Yeah. All right. Well, let's start off with an IMDb summary for The Fall Guy. Sarah, kick us off with that.
A stuntman, fresh off an almost career-ending accident, has to track down a missing movie star, solve a conspiracy, and try to win back the love of his life while still doing his day job. What could possibly go right?
Okay, in Movies and Us tradition, we like to kick off with our one-sentence summaries for the film. Britt, as our guest, do you want to share yours?
My one-sentence summary. Who needs a solid plot when you can have three convoluted plots that spuriously lead to the same conclusion with a lot of explosions, licensed music, and too many comments about spicy margaritas?
Well done. Well done. Oh my gosh. I love it. There's so much in there, and we are going to unpack all of it. It's so good.
I feel like I got pretty much everything that happened.
Yeah, it's a pretty good summary. Yeah, I think sums it up. My favorite is the spicy margarita shade that you threw there. That was great. That was really good because it comes up way too many times.
It comes up all the time, and I'm like, I don't even want I don't like tequila very much, but I'm never gonna have a margarita again after this.
You don't want one in your swimming costume?
No, I don't want one in my swimming costume.
Okay, Sarah, what is your one-sentence summary for The Fall Guy?
Mine is, a good cup of coffee is hard to find.
Nice. My one-sentence summary is, Metal Storm's longest behind-the-scenes featurette on the DVD.
Yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Real long. Okay, well, let's dive in. We're going to share our thoughts about The Fall Guy. We are not going to spoil this movie in this first section. We're going to keep our review at a high level. So, Britt, I'm curious your thoughts. After that fabulous one-sentence summary with all of the bangers, what did you think about The Fall Guy?
What did I think of The Fall Guy? I wanted to really enjoy this film. It's been getting really good reviews from people that I respect and adore their movie reviews. It's done well on Rotten Tomatoes and even on Letterboxd. And so I thought this is going to be a fun time. I don't necessarily need my movies to make sense. Let's just go into it and enjoy the ride. But this film really just didn't work for me. I wanted it to, but it is so long that it took me 2 days to get through it. And I kept looking to see when we were going to be done with the film, because it just, right? Oh my God, it takes so long to even get to the bounty hunting, quote unquote, of the film. And just, what is this film that we just watched? That's how I feel.
I think I hovered over it, and it was only at the 25-minute mark, and I was like, oh no. Oh no.
Right?
I thought I was like at least an hour 15 the way through. Nope, we were at the 25-minute mark. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to really settle in, get some snacks.
Right? It just it somehow goes at such a slow pace for a movie about action and stunts.
Yes. Which we're gonna unpack a lot related to that. too.
Great.
Sarah, what are your thoughts about The Fall Guy?
Guys, I'm so relieved.
Okay.
Because I really struggled with this movie. And I was like, oh no, am I the problem? Because that's always my thing. Like, I'm watching this movie and it has like really good reviews. I know a lot of people who enjoyed it. I'm like, oh no, am I just not able to have fun? Like, am I the problem here? Oh man. Okay, I feel so much better. This is going to be great.
And it could be that we are all three the problem, but I'm okay. We're in good company.
Yeah.
But that's okay. As long as I am not the only one, I'm fine. But I went into this. This is not my typical genre of movie. I'm not a rom-com person. So like, I was like, okay, we're just going to go in and it's just going to be a fun popcorn movie and, you know, have a good time. And I was like, okay, I can deal with this. I can deal with the slowness. I can get through some of this stuff. And then the movie just escalates a lot over time. And by the third act, nothing makes sense. And kind of like the rules of the movie stopped existing. So I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I'm done with you, movie. So I think it's a really good premise, but I think and I know it's a creative choice to make things get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. But I think that almost, I don't know, at least for me, kind of defeats the purpose because it takes away from this really interesting premise of this stunt guy in the real world. But then the movie just gets really, really big and I went, nope.
Absolutely. 10 out of 10. Nailed it.
Yeah, I'm surprised this movie is it didn't work for me as much as it didn't work for me because you'd think that you would just go and have a good time. You know what I mean? You've got some stars.
Yeah.
You've got two great leads who are like really charismatic, really fun to follow. They've been in a bunch of other things that have done so great and they really like have that like star power. And then there's stunts and big action. Like what's not to love to have like a decent enough time? You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I was really trying to figure out like why does this not work? And I think part of it is the movie like wants to be really like endearing in these like moments, and then it also wants to be big, and we like are tonally shifting so much that I don't know what this movie wants to be. I actually think this movie would work really great if it leaned so fully into like the zany, do a big spoof, do satire, make fun of Hollywood, you know what I mean? Like make fun of stars and how they're like craving the spotlight and they're jealous of their stuff. And like if they leaned into that and also like nailed the jokes a little bit better too, and it was actually funny, this could be so fun. And like you mentioned, Sarah, the premise is amazing. There's so much opportunity here to highlight these dynamics that exist in getting a movie made. And I'm like, there's so much potential here that it just feels like such a missed opportunity.
I think a lot of that, I think not a lot of it, but some of that fault does probably lie in the director, who I went back and looked through some of the other movies that he's directed, and I don't like any of them. So I was like, okay, I probably wasn't going to like this. You know, like he directed Bullet Train, which I really didn't enjoy, and Hobbs and Shaw, which I also really didn't enjoy. It did take my dad to that, and he had fun. So at least he enjoyed that one. But like, I feel like there was no direction of any of the performances. The director lucked out in getting some talented performers in, but then thought they're talented, they don't need direction, where let me tell you, an actor absolutely needs direction. They need to know what they're supposed to be doing in a scene. And so much of it felt like, did either of you see The Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield? So in it, Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone have these like weird scenes where they're just like, like just like smiling at each other and like having naturalistic dialogue that just doesn't work. And I was like, why are we doing this? That's how it felt watching all of the actors in this movie. I was like, where's the direction? Somebody just said Ryan Gosling is really good, so we'll just let him be. And I'm like, he's really good because he knows how to take direction. Give it to him and he'll deliver, but you can't just let him live on his own in that space. And I just watching it, it felt so directionless. I didn't know what any of the characters wanted. I didn't know what I was supposed to be feeling most of the time. And because it was so disjointed in that aspect of it, even the cool stunts, which I'm a huge fan of, give me explosions all day, I just didn't care. By the end of it, I was so exhausted trying to figure out what the movie was trying to tell me that I just was like, is it done? Are we over? Please.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that like great action needs is for us to care and be invested in the outcome of whatever the action danger is happening, right? And so there's just a disconnect for me with like being invested in any of the characters, which again, these are two incredibly talented human beings. Like you'd think that like something would work here, but and when they're doing their like romantic lines of dialogue and stuff, it's almost so big and over the top that I was like, I'm not taking this seriously. I don't know if I should be taking this seriously, and this is meant to be really like meaningful and genuine, or if the movie's also making fun of itself, because I could kind of see it leaning in that direction too. So it either needed to be real sappy, and serious, or just be silly and make fun of like big dramatic romantic movies. And I'm down for that too. Let's make fun of them.
Let's make fun of Hollywood too. Like, come on. Yeah. They deserve it.
Yeah. There's some of that in the last section, little bit of the movie that I was like, if we leaned into this energy a little bit more, this could have worked. And we can get to that when we get to spoilers. But there was hope. There was like the last ending, like 15 minutes. I was like, this is what this movie could have been. There was hope for it. But too little, too late.
Yeah, I agree with that. It definitely, because when it finally did get to that like magnum opus, the ending, I just kind of was like, too little, too late, man. Like at this point, I'm not invested. And I think this is ridiculous. Not in a good way. I like a good, ridiculous film, but when it doesn't match the rest of the movie, I just wonder what are reshoots and what are not. Like, who watched the film and thought it didn't work and we had to go back and add a bunch of things in? That's kind of how it felt. Like, they decided they wanted to add in plot points after they're like, to be perfect. Anyways, we'll talk about that in spoilers because there are certain characters that I'm like, why is this character in this?
Yeah.
And where did they go?
These are valid questions. And I think it just goes to the fact that this movie just feels so long. Like, oh my gosh, this is way too long of a movie. We needed to cut some things here. That needed to be like a tight 90-minute movie, not a 2-hour long movie.
And I like a long movie. You know, I did this year say, I think movies should never be 4 hours. And then I watched Jean Dielman and that movie is incredible. And I wanted 8 more hours of it. Right. So you can have a long movie and make it work. But if I watched the extended cut. So if a 2 hour and 26 minutes feels like 8 hours, there's a problem.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Well, and then there's like 3-hour long movies that feel like an hour. And I'm like, how did you accomplish that? You are spending time. And it's because like you're on the edge of your seat and you like don't want to peel yourself out of the world, you know? And this was, the thing is, this world didn't feel real to me. Like I did not feel realized and authentic, which is fine. Then do the spoof. You know what I mean? Like do the like big over the top colorful characters that like don't feel human, but like they are caricatures of, and this is where when we get to that point, when we talk about the last 15 minutes of the movie, there's characters where I'm like, I saw a glimpse of those, like, you know, paint with brighter colors and saturate all of the like quirks of all these characters. And then we could get something really fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that it's because the director was so excited to get to that ending that he didn't care about the rest of the 2 hours that he had to direct. He was like, but once we get there, it's going to be real cool. It's like, okay, but we still have to care. We need to know how we get there. I don't care if we're doing rampant boats. Like, that's not going to matter if I don't care about the person on the boat.
Yeah. So it's so interesting because I think so many times the lack of investment in the movie is often due to the characters. Like, the character's not written well. Sometimes, you know what? The character's written well, the plot kind of sucks, but like, I'm still invested because I want to see this journey that this character that I care about goes on, even if the journey doesn't really make that much sense. But like, we have an anchor point. And this one, I think you mentioned earlier, I'm like, I don't know how should we feel who I'm following and what we're doing here. So
yeah. Well, and it also makes me think of like, you can throw money at a movie, but if you don't have the right people behind it, behind the scenes or in front of the camera, it's just not going to work. I think of, so right after we watched this film, because we were on Peacock, my husband and I realized, oh, Monkey Man's on here. And we hadn't watched it yet. Watched Monkey Man, and I was sobbing. Like, I was so invested in that film. Also listen to your episode. It's really, really good. Because I was like, let's see what they think of this movie. I was obsessed with it. I thought it was so good. And that was made on like, what, a $10 million budget. They even used iPhones for some of the freaking scenes. And it has a great drop kick. So you know I'm a fan because I love a good drop kick. Like, that was such an amazing movie. And just like, it was made for $10 million. So it just, to me, proves that if you don't have the right people in front of the camera or behind the camera, it's not going to work. It just won't. You can throw money at it, but I won't enjoy it probably.
Yeah, no, it's so true. Similarly, well, very different movie that I was thinking of than Monkey Man, but I was thinking a lot about Hitman while watching this movie. Britt, I'm curious your thoughts. Did you see Hitman, and what did you think of it? Okay.
I did not. I haven't seen it yet, but I do know the story behind it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So I went into The Fall Guy kind of with the frame of mind of like, this would be like Hitman. You know, you've got like a charismatic set of stars. They've got great chemistry. It's fun. It doesn't really mean that much, but that's fine. Like, you're there for the entertainment. It's a popcorn movie. And so Hitman has such clarity and vision, and so much of that plot and the whole device of it all is designed so specifically, obviously, for the Glenn Powell charisma. But there is a clear direction. There is a goal at every point. You understand who the characters are, and the chemistry between them is obviously like electric. And there's a lot that feels similar in nature between Hitman and Fall Guy, especially in like the type of market that they're operating in and the need that they're filling, you know? And so thinking about like, why does Hitman work and why does Fall Guy not work was kind of another fun little thought train that I went down.
Now I really want to watch that. So now I'm going to have to, maybe I'll watch it tonight after I get off this, just
it's
because,
a fun, easy watch.
I always like watch a movie after podcasting because I'm too hyped. So I guess I'm going to watch that one tonight because now I'm really interested, especially because like Glenn Powell and Ryan Gosling look similar. They're two white blonde men who are very charismatic. So that's a very interesting, I'm very interested now.
Mm-hmm. Well, it also like proves that like just having star power and charisma, if it's not channeled well, to your point, Britt, of like they're shaped, they're molded and channeled with the natural charisma that they've both Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling have exhibited. You can't just throw it on screen and hope that it works. Like, we love them, but we need to love them in the context that they are in the movie. So just that raw star power alone doesn't actually make this work.
I agree.
All right, well, let's include a spoiler here. If you haven't seen The Fall Guy, we are now going to enter spoiler territory. So if you don't want this movie spoiled for you, please watch the movie before listening to the rest of this episode. Okay, we've got free reign to talk about any aspect of this movie. Where do we want to start? What stands out to you?
Oh, God. So much just stands out as like it not working.
Yeah.
I just don't. It feels like somebody wrote this script. It went through one round of edits, and they went, "Yeah, that's fine. We'll put it on the screen. It'll be good. Ryan Gosling's in it, right? It's fine." Like that, they just trusted him so much that they're like, people like explosions, and they like Ryan Gosling, so it's gonna be okay. And it's just not enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I am like a mega fan. I love him so much. And it's not enough.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the stunts and the action sequences in this movie, because this might have been a me thing, but seeing some of the things that this director has done in the past, specifically like the incredible stunt choreography and work that he's done on, for example, like the John Wick series, right? I went in expecting just more, perhaps, and maybe that was the wrong expectation, but it seems like we went for like quantity versus quality in this movie. Like we have like every scene back to back is obviously like big set piece, big set piece, big set piece, which is really fun. But there's a pacing in giving us like time and breaks, develop the plot, develop the characters, then hit us with another big set piece that actually makes it more effective versus let's show you everything that we can do because we can do it and we have the money for it. Feels like kind of the approach that was taken here. So I was kind of disappointed in the quality of even some of the choreography and some of the set pieces that unfolded in this. Which I didn't expect to. I expected, even if the story wasn't as great, like just the wow factor of the visuals would be there. And I wasn't as wowed as I expected to be. So I'm curious y'all's thoughts on like the stunts and the set pieces, and then also like kind of the overarching arc of them over the course of the movie.
Yeah, my favorite piece of this movie is at the end when the credits are rolling and we see how they actually did the stunts. And you actually see the actual stunt people doing the things, the raw footage. That was my favorite part. I was so engrossed. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I will watch all of these credits just so that I can see what they did. That is so cool. Because there were certain points in this movie where I was like, this looks like crap. Especially there's this one moment when they're on the garbage truck on the bridge. And I was like, this looks terrible. What are we doing? And is this intentionally terrible? Is that like, what is happening here? And so I think it just goes back to that point of like, what is this movie and what is it trying to be? Because if you're trying to be intentionally terrible looking, then we need to be a little bit more consistent so that we as the audience understand that this is intentional and not just by accident.
I totally 100% agree. That was also my favorite part. I loved watching that. It got my heart racing. I was on the edge of my seat like I hadn't been for any other point in that film whatsoever. And I was like, why wasn't the whole movie this? Why did we ever leave the set? That's the most confounding thing about this film. We have a movie about a stuntman who's coming back to film a movie. Why did we have to leave set? Like, I get it. He's supposed to go find the not British, American man who sounds British the whole time, even though he's had a great American accent in other films. But why do we have to have so many different scenes and so many different places that we went to when everything that happened could have happened on set, and you could have utilized all of the different like things that stuntmen do in action movies. And I guess they did that throughout the course of the film, but it would have been way cool. Like the movie that I was making in my head was where he's, kind of a washed out stuntman who comes back, his, ex-girlfriend Jody, who for some reason, like, she's very mad at him and he's like, yeah, I did wrong. And it's like, but we don't see that. So what is happening? She's directing this film and he has to kind of get in her good graces while being a good stuntman, even though he's probably suffering from PTSD or something after his horrible accident. And then they decide to go all over Sydney and have a boat explosion and go have a strange, weird unicorn drug thing happen. And it's just like, all of that was so unnecessary. If we had just stayed on the set, I would have been thrilled. I think it would have made the movie so much better. There was just too much going on there. And because there was too much going on, things look bad. Like I especially think of when he's launching the boat, it looks terrible. Like he launches the boat and we're like, oh, is he supposed to be dead? What is happening? And also, when was this movie like supposed to take place? What was the year? Because doesn't he say that he's like his first stunt work was on Miami Vice, the TV show, between 1985 and 1989, and Ryan Gosling was born in 1974? So was he in grade school? Like, I'm confused. When was he a stunt?
He was a child stunt man. He was a stunt child. on Miami Vice.
I mean, it was the 80s. Who knows? They probably gave him
Honestly.
Coke and was like, have fun.
It's entirely possible, which would be a hilarious movie. You know, this dude,
Totally.
he gets his start as a kid, so it's like Daredevil
Getting out
stuff,
of
and then it
school
like
bus.
impacts his entire life, and now he thinks that he's this like stunt guy all the time. Like, it would be hilarious.
That would be a great movie. They should have written that movie. I actually have it going on right now, like, because I can see my TV from my screen, and I'm just like, God, this should have been better. He's going to flip the car right now, and I'm like, that should have been cool.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not. Which makes me feel bad, because this movie is supposed to be an ode to stuntmen, right?
That was my biggest thing,
It's
too,
supposed
with
to be-
this movie, is that when it started, I was like, this is really cool. They have the whole, and this is a voiceover bit where Ryan Gosling is like, these are the unknown, like behind the scenes, invisible heroes of making a movie. And there's kind of this just like warm, fuzzy feeling that I had of like the magic of movie making, you know, and all of the team and the people that get to be there to make it happen. And we get to spend some time on set and see kind of the process of it, which I just love. But you're right. The movie was supposed to be an ode to this craft, but then the output of the movie isn't quality. So then you're like, this doesn't compute in my head at a meta level of like, this should be like impeccably like well done, highest quality as an ode to the craft itself. And it's weird because they have this whole bit around like deep fake technology and CGI and all this kind of stuff. But then it also like, it looks like they used a lot of CGI in this movie instead of using like a real stunt. So I'm like, this also doesn't compute at a meta level either. So I was scratching my head a little bit at that piece too. And I was wondering was this intentionally made to look bad as a commentary on the use of technology, but then also didn't lean into that heavily enough that I was like, maybe that was or wasn't intentional. I can't really tell. But that could have been kind of neat too, of like, look how terrible this looks when we use technology versus next set pieces, like true stunts that are real and like us as a viewer feeling the difference, like juxtaposed. That could have been really fun too. But
I feel like that's giving it a lot of credit, and I wish I could give it that credit. Like, I really do. I wish that it had that deep level, because that, again, you saying that's an incredible, fascinating film that I want to watch. And I just didn't see that in this film. It was, God, it's just, it's kind of a baffling film. And I'm not quite sure where the love is coming from. And I wish I could see it, but I don't understand the people that are like it. And again, if you love this film, incredible. I'm so happy that you were able to find something in it that really spoke to you. I just can't find something in this film that really speaks to me. And I'm like, okay, if I want to watch cool action sequences, I'm just going to watch Mad Max Fury Road again. Like, I'll just do that. I'll leave Furiosa. That's fine. It can go sit in the corner, but I'll definitely watch Mad Max again.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Mad Max, because Metal Storm is set in the desert with all of these like road vehicles, you know, that, and then like big costumes and stuff, and there's sand and dunes and stuff that like surely the movie knows we're making that connection point in our brain. You know what I mean? It's a sci-fi epic in the desert, you know, and that film, that whole series has such incredible real stunts. And so like when this movie doesn't look good, you know, like you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot a little bit, because you know where our brains are all going there, and they're following that train and making that connection point. So,
and we're just gonna go rewatch all the Mad Max movies instead of rewatching this film, because the car flips look way better.
Yep. Honestly, I wanted to watch the Metal Storm movie trailer that Jason Momoa is in. I'm like, that movie looks kind of fun.
Same.
It might be terrible.
That looks
but it's
great.
Gonna be a good time, and I can make fun of it. And it has a clarity and vision. It knows what it is.
Can I bring something up that really annoyed me in this
Love
film?
It.
Another thing. You know. So Jodie is a first-time director, and somehow she has this epic sci-fi film, like this epic action sci-fi movie. That is unheard of. It is so difficult for women to direct in general, and then for a woman to get the opportunity to to do a film like that, which is probably one of my favorite type of genre films. I love a sci-fi action epic. I think they're so much fun. Why doesn't she give a shit about her movie? Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know if we should swear. Why doesn't she care about her movie? Like, it truly throughout the film, I'm always like, why can't you care more? And I know that she said like she had a hand in kind of changing the character up so she was a little less severe and a little more like a Greta Gerwig. And I was like, okay, but Greta Gerwig's really good at what she does. So maybe if you would showcase that you're really good at what you did, I would believe in the character. But it just felt like she didn't care about this movie at all. Like I wanted so much more, and I wanted a commentary on how difficult it is for a female especially in a genre film. That is such a weird space to exist in. I'm not sure they were capable of showing us that, and it pisses me off because I'm a girl who loves horror, and man, trying to explain that to men is difficult. I'm like, I don't have to have street cred, I promise, but I do know what I'm talking about. Like, I know a lot about it. And just, I don't know, they could have done something really interesting with that, had people, like second guessing her or trying to, like there's one part where they're like, we're going to do it in CGI. And that's it. And I wanted more from it. Anyways, that's my rant about Jodie.
No, I completely agree. And the other things, in addition to what you are saying, that drove me crazy is, number one, she's writing the script or the screenplay as they're going. So that means that somebody greenlit this project. She is a first-time director without a story, and this was funded. My second issue on top of all of that is, how much money is this costing? Because she does that scene where she lights him on fire a bunch of times. That's the entire day, is just lighting him on fire. I'm like, how much money did you just waste on your first movie that you don't have a finished screenplay for? What are we doing here? I don't understand.
First off, that's the scene that's currently playing. So great job. You're psychic. Second off, also, they're having this really uncomfortable conversation over comm that everybody can hear. And I'm like, be professional. I'm sorry. This is what you don't date in the workplace. Come on, people. It was just so cringy to me. And sometimes I like a good cringe comedy, or I like a good cringe, like something like the movie May that gets under my skin. And I go, oh, please don't do that. This is not that. This is grow up. You're not 12.
Yeah, that was the scene for me too, that I was like, I think I'm supposed to really root for these characters, but they're making it kind of hard. You know what I mean? She's taking out this like very real emotion that she's feeling in a really petty way, wasting everybody's time, all of the budget of the movie. And we do see a little bit later, they talk about like, okay, she's like, this might not continue to get funded forward, but like that needed to be like a bigger problem, or just don't include that in there. You know what I mean? Like, it also, like, I would love to see a great depiction of a female director in a movie. Why can't we see that?
Yeah.
Why does she have to be unprofessional, bringing in all of the personal, emotions and all that kind of stuff in that? It's just kind of fueling a stereotype that already exists. And like, it just, now we get another one. Not great. Not great.
Yeah. It's really disappointing. I don't know. I really hated Jodie, and I wanted to not hate her because I was like, this is my female character. Like, I should be enjoying this. Other than when like Stephanie shows up and I'm like, she's so amazing. Why is she only in here for 2 minutes? And then the end. What is this? Which makes me feel like she was like a rewrite. Maybe they brought her in after the fact for some reason.
That was one of the other ones where I'm like, she's so dynamic when she shows up, but like her whole plot line doesn't really make sense. She's just like there to like fuel the next moment, or like be a character that exists there. And then she shows up at the end to make the call. And I was like, I feel like this was supposed to mean something, but I missed or I don't know what the context is here for her making the call. And then her also being the one to help produce or fund whatever eventually got made. So I'm like, I might have missed something, checked my phone, did something, but that did not make any sense in there.
I think the director missed something too, and that's why it ended up there. So you're not alone. Am I being too harsh? Maybe. Is it fun?
Yes, exactly. We must demand better for our movies, even the popcorn ones, Yes.
Yeah, I mean, just make something competent. That's all I'm asking. It felt kind of like, did you see the Roadhouse with Ryan
Yes. Gyllenhaal.
yeah,
Yeah.
with Gyllenhaal, that's it.
Yes.
It was
It was
bad, right?
bad.
Like it was
Yeah.
really bad. And this is just like barely a step above that. Just barely. But I think it's because that one was written by AI and this one maybe like the first round was AI and then they got a couple script writers in to clean it up. And that was that first edit and they said it was fine. But it's in a similar vein. I'm like, what is happening with our action movies? At least in the West. Like, what is happening to our Western action movies that we can't make a competent film? And then we get something like Monkey Man. And it's like, never mind. We have this. We don't need these if we have something like Monkey Man. Can you tell I really love that movie?
Oh my gosh, it's incredible. It's incredible. Yeah.
Just everyone go watch Monkey Man.
Really?
Like, can we make that the #1 film on Peacock? Because that would be great. Because the movie is
that would be
fantastic.
I loved it. And actually, that's another thing that they had an incredible, amazing scene in Monkey Man where he takes drugs and it is like an enlightening experience that actually moves the plot forward and kind of shows that you can indulge in something like this that will alter your mind, but it also can be an enriching experience. Whereas in Fall Guy, he sees a unicorn and gets hit by a car and wears a highlighter colored outfit. Like that's it. That's all we get out of that. You know, it's just such a, they added it just because they thought it'd be funny. It's going to be funny and it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's not funny. And also, I feel like they could have played with the visuals so much more. I mean, you've got a hallucinogenic drug. Like, go nuts, you know?
Why have one unicorn when you can have 100 unicorns? Like,
right. And then they've got like the sparkles that are happening in the action scene, which like conceptually could be like really cool. You know, like to see like grown men fighting each other and just like sparkles are flying everywhere. It would be really fun. There's a scene in Birds of Prey with Margot Robbie where she's got something with color that she's like shooting at people, but there's color and it's like really visually interesting. I'm like, do something like that. Instead we get like, it looks like Disney sparkles, honestly, like Tinkerbell, just, you know, there's some things about it. Like it doesn't look good. And also I wanted more sparkles. Everybody do sparkles. Let's do big sparkles, you know?
Yeah. That kind of is like this movie. It somehow doesn't go big enough at any point. It's like they get to, they go just enough in their heads. They're like, yeah, this is fine. We're not going to try any harder than that. Fine is good enough. And for a film like this, it is not good enough. You had what, $130 million, $150 million, probably more than that. And it's, they even have bad wigs. Like, oh my God. That's one of my pet peeves. If I see a seam on a wig, I get really annoyed. And man, the agent's hair is terrible, and she is such a great actor. Like, how dare you do that to her?
Yeah, the scene where I was like, I have now a vision of what this movie could have been in a multiverse strand that isn't this one, is when Gail has her whole like breakdown moment at the end of the movie, and you're like, this is the color that we needed for every character to be this big and wild and zany, and just have them collide with each other in this really interesting way. But also there's all this interesting, fun commentary around the relational dynamics and the power dynamics in getting a movie made and in Hollywood. Yeah. Just something along the lines of like, I'm the one that makes this all happen for you little guys. And like, let's talk about those. Let's include those. Do it up, make it big, make it funny. But also like there's truth behind it that then we as the audience leave with and can think about and can mull on. There's some of that stuff there that I think, man, this movie could have been really fun, way more fun, but also way more meaningful as well. And you get a double whammy there. So that moment with Gail at the end is the one where I was like, this could have been that.
Yes, I totally agree. It's probably my favorite, like my favorite thing that anybody says in the whole film. It's the only point where I'm like, yeah, she has conviction here. She is being evil and mean, and I like it. There's a choice there. Whereas everything else is kind of wishy-washy. Even when I do enjoy the non-diegetic music. That's pretty funny throughout the whole thing. And like even right now, he's going to listen to Taylor Swift and watch Jodie, and I'm like, we didn't earn it. I wish we earned that. I wish we earned the 10-minute All Too Well in this film, but we didn't. How dare you?
Yeah, I was going to say, as a Taylor Swift fan, that song deserves better.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So I do have a question for both of you, just because I decided, I was like, do I like action films? And I actually do. I love them. Do you guys have a favorite action movie?
You know, the one that always comes to mind is Mad Max Fury Road. And the thing
so
that's
good.
fun
It's
is that
literally
like,
top
I
to
remember
top.
watching the behind the scenes featurettes and making of that movie, like probably longer, more hours of that I watched on YouTube afterwards, more than the movie itself. So that's really fun. But that's one that comes to mind. And then, I have to rack my brain for some others. Sarah, I don't know if you have one that you're thinking about as well when it comes to action movie.
I'm so bad at picking favorites. Fury Road is obviously a great choice. I think I'm going to be a total bro right now and just say John Wick. You know,
John Wick's great.
I think that franchise really did a lot to change the action genre. And so I think even just for that, those movies are incredible to watch the action. And again, those behind the scenes footages of them doing the choreography and all of that, like incredible to watch. Such great action.
Why didn't they include any of that kind of behind the scenes stuff in the Fall Guy? Right? I don't understand, because that's what's so fascinating when somebody does do a, you know, like they're going through it, they're doing it like, you know, kind of half-assed at first, and then they really get into it and they're like, are you okay? And everyone goes, yeah, we're good. That's what we're looking for. That's the kind of heart we want in a film like this, right? Not just, I don't know, two people talking at each other for 10 minutes for no reason, talking about Notting Hill.
Yes. Yeah. And I wonder if, you know, this director was a stunt performer, stunt choreographer, and now has like done a lot more since and directed a lot more since. But there's sometimes this like closeness to your craft that like benefits from just like other skill sets and other eyes on it that can like shape, refine what's there that is good, that like you are the expert in, you understand fully, but it's molded for the masses. It's molded for consumption instead of creation. And so I was thinking a lot about that too, because clearly there is such a skill set that he has in this area with his like incredible portfolio of work, but like it getting translated into a story is a totally different ballgame than, you know, than the execution of the craft itself. So that's a whole where our blind spots are, and then where our strengths can shine, and where we need to be balanced out with other people. We talk about this a lot with like sometimes screenwriters that have like such creative vision, but like they need just like one other collaborator to kind of like vet it a little bit to shape it. I think it might have been M. Night Shyamalan that we had this conversation with, or something like that. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. And Aaron Sorkin is the other one.
What was the other one
that we talk about?
Yeah.
Aaron Sorkin. He needs someone like David Fincher to help him, because Aaron Sorkin, I love Aaron Sorkin so much. He's one of my favorite screenwriters, but he can be so like rosy and happy, and everything is going to come together, and all of his like little quirks that he has. And so he needs someone like a David Fincher to be like, no, let's add in a little like gritty realism in here. And then you get something really awesome from that.
I wonder what we would have gotten if we had like a double director on this, right? You know, we had two people collaborating together. And I know like that must be incredibly difficult, but I also think collaboration is really important. And in this case, I think it would have been really great to have somebody else there kind of to bounce ideas off of, because it really just feels like he kind of had free reign to do whatever he wanted, and it didn't really do anything. It just kind of was there and showed up, and you're like, oh, okay, was that a choice, or was that just the actor did something and you thought, fine? I think that's just like the Fall Guy. Fine. That's what it is. That's my motto for this film, I guess. I will say that my favorite action movie is Hard Boiled. If either of you have ever seen it, the John Woo film, it's so much fun.
Wow, I haven't seen that one yet, but Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's with I believe it's Tony Leung and Chow Yun Fat, and there is an incredible hospital scene with incredible explosions, and I really love it. I believe it's from 1992, so I highly recommend it if you would like to watch a wild film about with where they never count the bullets, because it's a John Woo film, so there's no such thing as counting bullets in those.
Love it. We have a
It's all
little
about the
list
vibe.
of films that have been recommended to us from friends of the pod that we'll have to add that too and figure out if we can cover. Yes.
Oh, great. Yes, you should. I think, you know what?
Okay.
I think you'd get a kick out of it because it goes far enough. It is over the top, and like the characters are kind of shallow, but in a good way, in a way that you're like, we accept these characters. They're going where they're going to go, and that's fine. Whereas in this, we're like, where are the characters? Where are they going, and why are they here? It's never answered.
Yeah. It's like, fine if we have a thin character, if we know exactly where we stand and there is no more depth, then like, great, let's like just follow you in the movie as you do cool stuff. Down for that, And I think honestly, like a lot of, we think about, I know we've been talking about John Wick too, but I was thinking about John Wick while watching this movie because the premise of that movie is so simple. It's so clear, but we know exactly where the emotion is. And we know exactly that he's seeking vengeance for his wife and his dog. Okay, that's all we need to know. Yep. Now show us cool stuff, and it can be as simple and straightforward as that. And I think a movie like this would have benefited for that. Absolutely. And then we have now all this time and attention and brain cells to focus on all the cool stuff that happens. But we're immediately invested in the simple premise for our character, the one motivation that they have.
And nobody talks about spicy margaritas. So.
Yes, that is a plus. But I do think that this film just gets so into itself. And it's just like, yeah, man. And then the more that we add into this is going to be great. Okay, so the movie star is no longer missing. In fact, he's the villain. And you know what? We can one-up that. He's actually going to be a murderer. And you know what? More than that. He's going to frame you, Ryan Gosling, for the murder. That's pretty good stuff right there. Okay, yes. Now, let's make the conspiracy even bigger, because go big or go home. So it was just like, they just kept adding to it. And I'm like, sometimes simplicity is better, because like you were saying, Jen, if the plot is simple and straightforward, then you can use that time and that creativity to get us to care about the characters, and then invest in these really good action set pieces that then further the really simple plot. But this is just trying to do everything big, and so then it just kind of becomes convoluted and muddled, and the bigger that it got, the more that I was like, okay, no, I can't with you.
I have some garbage trucks right behind me, so I'm not sure if it's being picked up, so I'm just muting my mic until they're gone. I'm so sorry. I didn't
Wait, should we put the movie in the... We got something for them. They need to pick up too.
Perfect. Toss the film right out there.
Are there some henchmen in there? Is somebody like doing a stunt outside of your window?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it's actually Ryan Gosling.
Oh, okay.
He's right out there. Hi. I wish. I know. Man, garbages. My nephew would be really excited. He loves garbage. He's 3. Anyways, I agree with everything you said, though. Absolutely everything. I'm okay with a plot going wild and going to wild places. I think that's fun. It can be really exhilarating and just a great choice if there's anything else in the film that supports it. If there's not, then it's just useless and it makes me tired and I will fall asleep. That's kind of what I did. We literally were like, it's 8:30 p.m. We're not going to finish this film tonight. I guess we're just going to fall asleep. And we turned off the movie and then had to wake up the next day and watch an additional hour and a half. And we're like, oh God, okay, let's get through it. And we were genuinely like, both my husband and I were excited. We were like, yeah, let's do it. Let's watch The Fall Guy. Our excitement was very misplaced.
Yeah.
The garbage is gone now, by the way. Woohoo!
Well, yeah, he's like wave surfing during that scene, right? On the garbage truck thing with the
On
sparks
the garbage
flying
truck.
underneath and
Yeah.
So, okay, the other thing that drove me crazy about the garbage truck scene, other than the fact that it looks terrible, especially on the bridge, is the first henchman that he's fighting. Again, this is supposed to be the real world where he is just a stunt performer. The first henchman that he's fighting, I'm pretty certain that he murders that dude. Because
he's dead.
like, there's no way that he would have survived hitting that sign the way that he does and then falling to the ground like that. Like, no, he's dead. And I'm just like, this is supposed to be our protagonist that we're following in the real world, and now he's a murderer. And the film is not going to acknowledge that. And I'm just like, and again, if you're watching a John Wick, if you're watching a Fury Road, something like that, you know this is what you're going into, and there's just going to be bodies everywhere. That's, you have bought into that premise.
The body count.
Yes. But a movie like this that's like, no, he is a stunt man. This is not happening on set. And then he murders a henchman. And I'm like, well, now I'm in a moral quandary here because I feel like I can't root for you anymore because you are a murderer. And then things go downhill from there.
Like, it's so true. It's like, what are we supposed to believe? There's also no blood. So we're like, okay, so he got hit, but there's no blood. So we assume he survives, but I guess maybe it could just be internal bleeding. And what is going on with this? I can't with this film. I don't think I'll ever think about it again after this conversation. Or when I do think about it, I'll think of the lovely conversation that I had with you two. That's the best part about this film. That I found kindred spirits. Like, thank you, Fall Guy, for bringing kindred spirits to me.
Well, that's the great thing, is that roasting a film really brings people together. It really builds camaraderie. The very first episode of this entire podcast that Sarah and I reviewed, which now we look back on, we're like, why did we choose this for our first episode? But it kind of seems fitting. It's Christopher Robin. It's live action Christopher Robin with Winnie the Pooh, Piglet. It's terrifying. It's a horror movie. It's not a horror movie, but it's horrifying.
Yes.
Therefore, it is a horror movie.
Yeah.
But it was so fun.
Horror is many different things.
And share all of our hot takes about why it doesn't work.
Hot takes and good takes. Like, I feel like we're pretty on point.
I'm pretty sure we are right. And we're speaking truth.
100%. Our truth is the correct truth. If you don't agree, that's fine, but just know you're wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was funny because when Neil and I were watching it, I was like, I don't know, I'm not enjoying this film very much. And my husband turned to me and he goes, well, you really like hyper-violent films, so that might be it. And I was like, I guess I do really enjoy hyper-violence. But even saying that, there are definitely films that I've seen that are, I guess, like PG-13 movies that don't have blood. I'm looking at my list of favorite action films, and none of those are on here. Actually, no. Everything Everywhere All at Once. I would consider that an action film. It's amazing. There's some paper cuts and some like nosebleeds in it and some great dildos, but like there's no blood, right? So that's an amazing action film that has a lot going for it. It has a plot and it utilizes the action in a way that lends to the story. I guess that's an issue in this one too. How is the action lending itself to the story at all? It isn't. Yeah. It's just kind of there to be like, look what we can do. And it's like, great. We need more than that. We need some substance, please.
Yeah. And like, it just doesn't make sense because like, where are all of these henchmen coming from? And like, does the actor employ henchmen? Like, what are we doing here? And then they're just like popping out of nowhere and trying to murder Colt. Like, what? And they're searching for this phone. It didn't make sense.
Oh, I did not get the phone thing. I in that scene, I was like, I forget.
Yeah, the phone.
You might have told me, but I forget why we're looking for the phone. I really forgot. But apparently this is really important, and everybody's sad when the phone gets shot through. So apparently this is important, but I don't remember why.
Yeah.
But it could be me from because I might have checked out.
There's a reason.
You know?
I think that, again, the director checked out. So you're not alone in that one. Yeah, the phone thing, I always forget about that until I see it. And I was like, what is that, a brick? No, it's a phone. Okay. It's a phone. Then we have the karaoke scene that goes on for way too long, where I'm like, I'm fine with this, but why is she singing this song? Again, she's singing a sad sack song. Why not give her a song that's like empowering? I would even, you know what? If she had gotten out there and sang Shania Twain, Girl, I Feel Like a Woman, it would have made everything better, to be perfectly honest. Like,
yes.
Right?
And
something like that,
she could,
instead of her just playing.
She could even be drinking a spicy margarita as a way to say F you to Colt. I don't need you. I can drink my spicy margarita by myself.
And be a successful independent woman. She is a successful independent woman. She is directing and writing, apparently. She has no script hands. Writing a sci-fi epic. My God. She should be more proud of herself instead of wallowing in some really, really boring, useless man.
And then the weird thing in that scene is that they're cutting back and forth between her singing and then like him fighting people. And I was like, I get that this is happening at the same time, but it feels like there should be a meaning here, but like she doesn't know that you're there. She's not like thinking back on anything. So I'm like, what? I don't get it. It feels like a bad music video.
It feels like when during the early like 2000s when musicians didn't want to do like cool productions anymore, so they would just like stage themselves singing on a stage, and that was the music video, and you're like, oh, that was fun. Why can't we have something more exciting than that? And that's what we got in The Fall Guy.
Yeah, he's
in his highlighter outfit now. Just to keep you up to date. We've been talking for quite a while, and he's only at the drug trip.
Wow.
That's how long this movie is.
Gosh. The pacing of this is just
atrocious.
Wrong.
One of my rewrites of this movie is that I think it'd be fun if we started with the death. Like we start with like, we found a dead body. And then everything else can unfold, you know? Like, this is supposed to do this like a murder mystery style, you know? Something. But like, now I'm invested. I'm like, I don't even care about any of the characters. Like, I just want to find out who died and why.
Yeah. Well, so I'm a big fan of like movies that happen in 24 hours, especially when it's a film like this. So what if we start with him finding the body and he's like, oh my God, my call time is in 20 minutes. And he has to then go to the set and try to figure out who this dead body is while completing all of these like stunts he has to do throughout the day, right? Because it's the most important day on Metal Storm, right? Like, wouldn't that have been a fun movie?
That would be really great.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, this rewrite we're doing.
We have so many options.
Yes. Hollywood, call us. We are smart and charismatic, and we can put this film together. I promise.
And we will come with an ending.
We will. What was the end? Okay. Let's talk about the ending. I think we're there. We have skirted around it. We have gone every which way this movie has given us to get to the ending. Well, it happened.
I don't know. I think this was supposed to be meaningful.
Yeah, we just an actor was just murdered, and we're like, oh yeah, that's fun and fine. And I'm like, wait, what? No, because the whole premise is we're not on set and this is not a movie, and so this dude was just murdered. I can't get over the murders because like this is supposed to be taking place in the real world. What are we doing?
And nobody cares. Nobody cares about the murders. Like when we have the actual video of him, like, I don't know, kicking the guy into the coffee table or whatever he does. It's like all of those people culpable. They will all go to jail because they were all there and did not say anything. But like she's still starring in the film, even though she was there when the other stuntman died. So they obviously don't care about that. I'm pretty sure that Colt would be in jail because he has made caused so much property damage. millions and millions of dollars of property damage.
Well, and like, how did
the Sydney Opera House?
Right?
Let's be real.
That was the other thing. I was like, is there no one in Sydney? Like, how is nobody called the cops? As like they're having like gun shootouts and stuff, and like all of this. I'm like,
this is Australia, so they might not have legal guns. That is one thing. Like, you can't have guns in Australia, so like let's consider that. But also, their whole like everything there is trying to kill them. So maybe they're like, day in the life. I'd rather be up against that guy, Colt, than the like funnel spider or whatever they have there. The different things that will absolutely kill you in 2 seconds.
Oh, yeah, with the cell service. Yeah.
Maybe they're just chill with it.
I forgot about that whole bit. Oh, my goodness. Okay, but the real hero of this ending is Dan. I would love to watch this whole movie through Dan's internal commentary just being, like, dragged reluctantly from one scene to the next, getting dragged into the shenanigans reluctantly, and just hearing his hot takes the whole time. I think would be really fun.
Okay, but what if the movie starts with a call to Dan at 3:30 in the morning, call time is 5, and it's just, oh my God, there's a dead body. And we just follow Dan as he's trying to get the stunts to work while Colt is trying to figure out what's happening, while Jodie is, I don't know, trying to be a director, but really just not improving herself in that regard. Oh my God, if it was from Dan's perspective.
So great.
Perfect film.
He looks like the type of guy that's got something to say about everything. You know what I mean? Just like, but like reluctantly will like help you do the right thing. But like, I'm going to give you an earful the whole time. So I just think it'd be so fun to hear his internal.
Because they deserve it. I will say, I kind of wish that he had a lot of movie quips throughout the film. And I wish that they were obscure instead of ones that we had known. So he'll say a line and like 2 people in the audience will get it. And I think that would be hysterical. And somebody just turns and goes, I haven't seen that. And it's just like the ongoing joke. He's like making jokes from, like some obscure anime or something to just prove that he's a really weird movie guy. Like those cinephiles kind of like me that will go in the trenches and be like, yeah, I really love this Takashi Miike's film Visitor Q, and everyone's like, what is that film? Like that's what I want from Dan. I don't want him to do like say hello to my little friends. I want him to do something way weirder than that. It's my one quip with him. Other than that, he was perfect. And I want to follow the whole film from his perspective, please.
Yeah, I think that's our winner from this whole like rewriting brainstorming session. I think that's it. I think we got it.
I'm really proud of us.
We did good work here today.
Yeah, we did. They should bring us on as script doctors.
They should.
Wow. We're really qualified.
Right? We just did a whole podcast. What more do you need?
Come on. We like movies.
That's all we need.
That's all we need.
Oh, love it. Love it.
Can I just say that the editing's a little bit weird in this movie. Like there is a drop kick that Dan does, and bringing back the drop kicks, that starts out as a front kick through a door, and in the magic of editing becomes a drop kick. And why did that happen? What? And then if you watch the movie again, there are many moments throughout where you're like, oh, how did that land? And I'm confused by the editing of this film. Because when you have a stunt director directing, like a stuntman directing this film, why don't we have cohesion in at least that?
Well, and the interesting thing is that like the editing is often able to allow the design of the stunts to shine, right? So the intentionality of how to edit something so that the effort and the design of the stunt is able to be like really on full display is like that is the perfect pairing for things working together in the toolbox of filmmaking tactics and things that we have available to us. Like those two need to work so closely together. And there's so many scenes where like, this is not, even if this stunt was executed, which there's a lot of CGI in this movie, so like some of them aren't, but there's some where you're like, that was such a hard cut from such a different angle that like, you're kind of highlighting the fact that you did a cut there. You know what I mean? When it was supposed to showcase like, look how magical and smooth this was. So that was another thing where I was like, what happened here?
And that can be a choice, right? Like you can do really amazing, interesting cuts. Like I'm thinking of Scott Pilgrim versus the World. It is very anime inspired, very like hard cuts, really quick cuts between different angles, but it works. It's very cool. It's a style. If they had chosen a style like that, I would have been on board with it more, but there was just no cohesion. I mean, I think that's just the thing. There's no cohesion in this film at all. And they just didn't choose a style. They weren't willing to commit to anything, including the stunts in a stunt heavy movie that's about stuntmen. So confusing. This movie is baffling. The more I talk about it, the more baffled I am by it.
Well, and I think it's baffling because of what you just talked about. You know, like it's not just a bad movie, because a bad movie is just like, right, okay, it's a bad movie. But for the movie to be like almost like advocating for and showcasing a craft to not then land that seems really strange. What was that movie, Sarah, that we watched and reviewed with the couple where there was a large age gap and they were like, the whole story was like they were being exploited by the public? It was a Netflix movie with are
you talking about May December?
May December is the same category as this movie in that at a meta level you're like, but the movie did the thing that the movie's trying to showcase that was really bad and really harmful for the people, but then the movie did that, so then this doesn't make sense.
How is that the best double feature ever? If you want to be baffled, watch May December and The Fall Guy, because they do the exact same things they're trying not to do, or maybe they're doing it on purpose, but they don't execute it well enough to work.
Now that's a fun pairing.
Wow, what
an unexpected pairing.
I think it's cursed. It's a cursed pairing.
Oh yeah.
God, I haven't thought about May December since I watched it and gotten very mad at it. So I feel like now I'm just like, oh, I'll talk about May December instead of talking about Fall Guy. That's fine.
Can we instead talk about Scott Pilgrim versus the World instead of
Absolutely.
The Fall Guy? Because
100%.
that movie is fantastic. So that neon scene in the club in The Fall Guy, as soon as he starts tripping and the action starts happening, I instantly thought of Scott Pilgrim. And I'm like, I just want to go watch that again, because that movie is fantastic, creative. The action is perfectly integrated with the story. Like it is, it's so good.
It is such a good film. I 100% agree. And I think that I think that people are scared to do Edgar Wright cuts of things. They don't want to be as flashy as him because he's so intentional with everything he does. And it takes time. You have to know what you want in order to make that happen. And it's disappointing that they couldn't pull that off at any point in this film. I feel like Scott Pilgrim is a much better movie to watch if you want to watch cool action that's married with CG in a really nice way. In a way that there's some synergy to it, you know, whereas here it's just like, oh, that looks like shit. Or sorry, oh, that looks real bad. And there it goes, you know. I just wish people cared more, I think, is the issue. I wish people cared more about the product that they were giving people. And I'm glad I didn't pay to see this film in the cinema. I'm glad I stole someone's Peacock account, aka my sister's, to watch this film.
Well, it's interesting because I'm surprised that the reviews and the scores and whatnot, the audience scores are as high as they are. I remember when this movie came out, I had a bunch of just like coworkers go and see it and whatnot, and like most of the commentary was just like, yeah, it was a fun time. And I was like, okay. So that's also framed my expectation going in, which is like, oh, it's going to be a really fun time. You know what I mean? But it is fascinating to see that it definitely underperformed at the box office, but the scores are higher than I would expect it to be. So that's an interesting, just like a pulse on kind of the reaction to the movie as well, as we compare it with our reactions.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird one. I know, like, I'm so excited. I thought I was going to have to hold back. I was like, you know, if everybody loves it, I'm gonna do my best to be nice.
No, we love
and
it.
Thank you both for giving me a platform to be my true self.
We want that.
Y'all, I was ready. I was like, oh no. When Jen is like, hey, Sarah, what did you think about this film? I was like, okay, I have to start with a disclaimer. And I know that like sometimes I just get hung up on things, and this might be me. And I was like, oh yes, I don't have to give any disclaimers in this episode.
No, oh man, can I just tell you that when people suggest films to my husband and I, we're usually like, just so you know, we don't like a lot of movies. Like, if we hate it, I am super sorry. We will tell you it was fine and then probably try not to talk about it again. Yes. So I understand.
I feel that.
Well, and it's just like there are so many people that think it's fine. I think I rated this, I'm going to be perfectly honest, a 1.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. And I felt like that was generous. And there are so many people that are giving it like 3.5 stars. And I'm like, that seems way too high. I give movies I love 3.5 stars. So I don't understand how that. I gave like the Meg 2 a 2-star because it was silly and like I had a fun time while watching it. It was not a good film, but I had a fun time. I didn't really have a fun time watching The Fall Guy. So that 1.5 stars only for the stuntmen at the end that we see. And I'm like, those stars are for you and nothing else in this film.
Oh. Baffling, I think baffling period is the best way we can sum it up.
I love it. I think, yeah, that's like, I have so many notes, but like, they're just reiterating the exact same thing. Yep. That it was baffling.
So in lieu of watching The Fall Guy, we've got some recommendations for y'all to watch. Go watch Monkey Man. Go watch Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Go watch some of the classics, Mad Max. All the entire Mad Max franchise. The other one that came to mind was, it's a recent one and like, you know, very much a bro movie too, but Top Gun Maverick has some great action. Like impeccable.
I love Top Gun Maverick. It was so good. And I'm not a Top Gun fan. Like I didn't like, oh, thank God. Everybody loves Top Gun. I don't get it. Oh my God. I feel so seen. Oh, thank you both. This is the best. This is the best thing ever. Top Gun Maverick is way better than Top Gun.
10,000% better. Yes. And like, not because of the like nostalgic, like, ooh, we're gonna like pan over the aviators and the photo. Like that's all like nice and warm and fuzzy for the people that love the first one. But the action, and the way that it's shot, the pacing of that movie is literally like case study for a lot of other movies to study. It's so well done. So we've got some other recommendations for everybody to watch.
Absolutely, those are way better. Please skip The Fall Guy. Watch all of those.
All right. Well, this was our review and discussion of The Fall Guy. You can find it available on Peacock. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Movies and Us. And a big thank you to you, Britt, for joining and sharing all of your thoughts and opinions and takes. We love it. Your full, authentic self. Always welcome here, no matter what. Yes.
Appreciate it so much.
Where can people find more of you and conversations that you're a part of on the interwebs?
We are on everywhere that you stream podcasts, except for maybe like YouTube. We are not on YouTube yet. We are going to be starting a TikTok soon because we are doing videos now. I'm in charge of it. Let's see how that goes. But we are also on Instagram. We are at 1001 by 1. We're on X at 1001 by 1. You can find me personally at Britsby Hobnob on Instagram, X, and on Letterboxd. I'm not particularly active on any of them, but I try, and I will say hello if you send me a message. I probably use Letterboxd the most, so that's the best place to find me. If you want a weird recommendation, I'm your girl.
Love it. We will include all of those links and handles and all that goodness in the show notes. So definitely follow more of Britt. You definitely will find lots of opinions and takes and feelings and always a good time. Always a good time. All right, well, our name, Movies and Us, sums it up. We're all about movies and the powerful ways we can connect with each other on the world around us. This podcast is about all of us and our shared stories. So everyone is welcome here, and we're so glad you spent time with us today. You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you tune to your favorite shows. Drop us a rating and review, letting us know your thoughts about The Fall Guy. You can connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Movies and Us Pod, or email us at moviesanduspod@gmail.com. We also have a second show, TV and Us, where we review seasons of TV. And right now we are covering Severance Season 1 in anticipation of Season 2 coming out soon in 2025. That is a show that if you watch, you need to talk about with people. So come join the conversation about that show with us.
Oh my God, Severance is the greatest show that's ever existed. I'm following absolutely all the conversations. I'm so excited. I was so excited that you said you were doing Severance because it's the best.
You're so thrilled for Season 2, huh? Like, we left off with such a cliffhanger
I
ending.
cannot.
We gotta find out.
We gotta find out. Well, I went in completely blind. My husband knew the premise, but I don't watch trailers. I just try to go in blind, and somehow I had no spoilers for Severance whatsoever. So when the ball drops at the end of the first episode, I just lost my cool. I started yelling. I think we started it around Valentine's Day, and instead of watching Palm Springs, which is our Valentine's Day movie, we just watched like 3 episodes of Severance. Like, that's how obsessed we were with it, and still are. We actually just started a rewatch in anticipation of the next season.
Love it. Yes, I think a lot of people are doing that too, because they're like, what even? I only remember certain shots from the first season of being like, I had such a strong reaction to this moment. And yeah, we've got to refresh on all of the things.
I forgot Christopher Walken was even in it. And then I went, oh God, that adorable storyline. What?
That was one of Sarah's favorite
good
plot lines. It's definitely that whole bit. Yeah, good stuff. So we've got some good conversations, reactions to Severance over on that show over there. In the meantime, on this podcast for Movies and Us, we will be back next week to discuss the film Wolves. We hope you have an amazing week, and we'll see y'all again very soon.